let's bring on our first speaker of the day. And it's actually going to be a one-on-one fireside chat, not with me. I know that's what you wanted. But it's actually going to be moderated by our own Justin Roberti. He's going to talk to Laurent Lamothe. He is the former prime minister of Haiti. And in his next act, his current act, he is a technology entrepreneur. And so let's bring Justin and Laurent on. There's Justin. What's up, man? And there's Laurent. How are we doing, guys?
Hey, guys.
Justin, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you, Spencer?
Excellent, excellent. Great to have you guys on. I will see myself out. I'll be back in a few. But Justin, the floor is yours. Laurent, a pleasure to have you here.
Wonderful to be here.
Well, it's something to follow up on Spencer's all of Spencer's energy here first thing in the morning. But we are thrilled to have Laurent Lamothe on with us. Laurent is, of course, an investor, an entrepreneur, and former prime minister of Haiti. It is an honor to have you with us today, sir.
It's a great pleasure to be here, Justin.
So I know that you've had between being you at one point were a professional athlete, and then you pivoted from there back into the private sector. Then did a stint as prime minister and accomplished quite a bit there, and then went back into the private sector. You've had quite an unusual career path compared to most people, with some fairly illustrious accomplishments. At what point did you start looking at the possibilities involved in global investing? It seems like that actually preceded your time in office, but was there were there elements of the time that you spent as prime minister that sort of informed your point of view on global investing?
Actually, no. I started investing way back in the days. I started in 1998. So I did a startup called Global Voice Group with a co-founder, and we started on a $5,000 loan from my dad at the time.
Wow.
Who basically, thought that he was just, giving me the money just, for me to go away and stop asking him.
$5,000. That was your round one seed funding, huh?
That was their seed funding. That was the pre-seed funding. So we started in one country in South America, in the telecom space. So we were basically selling airtime, international airtime to mid-sized carriers. We started in one country in Suriname, and so we then went to Guyana, and then I met a friend of mine who was in Africa and says, "Look, I think you should check out Africa because the opportunities there are great." I'm like, "Are you sure? Africa, really?" And he's like, "Yeah, you should give it a try." So I went over to Ivory Coast and we started there, and basically we became, I would say, one of the largest companies in Africa selling airtime to large carriers in Europe and in the United States. Wow. So that was, that's been quite a ride. The company, I did that from 98 to 2010. And basically we were trading over, 4 billion minutes every month at the time. And, it's been quite so I've been an early Africa believer, an early Africa investor, having lived it and eyewitnessing it every day.
And have you seen the opportunities grow in these kind of developing markets? How is it looking today versus when you started 20 odd years ago?
Well, it's very different in the sense that it's much more mature. Africa is a huge continent. We're talking about 1 billion people, right. And we're talking about a continent that's very often misunderstood, and people don't understand the opportunities because of lack of communications. You have so many different languages, and you have a lot of naysayers, a lot of people that don't believe in Africa. I'm one of those, I would say, success stories that have invested there, that have believed in it. Not at the beginning, I was a little bit jittery, just like everybody else. But having lived it, the opportunities today are much greater because you have a much more mature market. You have a structured market. I mean, you have countries such as Nigeria, Ghana, Nigeria is 140 million people market. Ghana is like over 40 million market, and in different areas. For example, fintech is an area of great need.
Sure.
You have 54 countries also in Africa. So people that are not there, and you're seeing a huge shift of companies going down there. Google is investing heavily down there. Salesforce, when I spoke to their CEO, they're planning on investing there. So you see a huge momentum now going into the African continent.
And sure, and technology has certainly helped make the web boom, of course, and now blockchain has certainly helped make more opportunities more available. I think that a lot of investors who are looking for high risk, high return investments would probably gladly consider African startups that might 10x, but and look to reach that untapped audience. It just intuitively seems to make sense since it's a large audience. It's also an underserved audience. You have many unbanked and underbanked there, for example. So as you mentioned, fintech seems like a really promising place. I have a feeling a lot of retail investors and even smaller projects don't necessarily really know where to get a foothold to start looking at global investment, which is why you have the sometimes accurate criticism of a blockchain consisting of a lot of U.S. and European-based companies serving the problems of U.S.-based and European users. That has been an ongoing sort of criticism. Where do people start if they want to properly vet something as an investment, and maybe get in the ground floor of a promising startup or an African-based unicorn? I know that there have been several over the past year.
Look, there are several avenues. One of them, certainly, if investors are looking, for example, blockchain investors. Africa is a fertile. It's a great market for blockchain investors. Why? Because one of the main applications of blockchains is, for example, money transfer and the high cost of money transfers. You have billions of dollars going to Africa, and the average fee that the sender of a transfer is paying is between 12 to 15%. So that's incredibly high. And you have billions of dollars being paid in fees every year. So that creates a perfect ground for blockchain investors wanting to invest in money transfers, for example. And the technology is well received in terms of the leapfrogging is definitely a reality there. And when you see and you have companies that are taking the next step. So you have a company, for example, called Untapped. Untapped, what they do is they bring several, they just did several trips into South Africa, for example, and they bring with them U.S. investors, and those U.S. investors get to see, firsthand the companies or the fund that they're investing to, and they encourage, and they've done that with several companies, they encourage companies to incorporate in Delaware in the U.S. in order to have the access to U.S. capital markets, and thus reducing the risk into investing in that would otherwise exist in the minds of U.S. investors. Well, they take those companies to the U.S. and incorporate here. Now it's a twofold advantage, because for the company is able to have access to the U.S. the U.S. capital market on one hand. On the other hand, the investor also has access to the niche markets that would otherwise be untapped. So Untapped is actually the company. And Jim Chu is the person driving this innovation, and he's investing heavily in Africa. So it's a really win-win situation.
It seems like the level of firsthand research to do due diligence for these projects, just as an average retail investor, maybe kind of on the more private side of things rather than institutional, it could be intimidating to make a start. Is the best way to do that to look for funds that are making these kind of investments and kind of get on board in that way? Or what's the best way to, make an impact there and also sort of protect yourself in your investment?
Well, there are several funds that are investing in that space, in the difference, because as one has to be bullish, of course, and of course invest part of the portfolio into a market like that. But there is several funds. Untapped is one of them. Invest Africa Fund is another one. So you have very good funds that do the deep dive research into those different companies and provide a pretty nice return that investors would love to have in a diversified portfolio.
Mm-hmm. Now you mentioned, of course, this is the small cap conference, but we're looking at all different forms of fundraising. They're all relevant. So to just talk about fintech, blockchain for a minute here. I mean, it certainly is within the ethos and the intended the stated goals, like in the Bitcoin white paper, going back to the beginning DNA of what crypto has become. To create global access to financial instruments and financial institutions that wasn't available for a number of people before. Do you see fintech as an opportunity to make more of that actually reality, some of our higher ideals in Africa in terms of servicing that audience?
100%. If you see already the valuations of companies in Africa, especially, for example, in the digital banking area, is incredibly high. There is a company called Kuda Bank, which is a digital bank in Nigeria. Right. They started with a valuation of about $36 million. Now they have a valuation of over $500 million, and then they only have really 1 million subscribers, of which 240,000 are active. So imagine with just 1 million subscribers, the valuation of $500 million. The growth potential that this bank has, and that's just one. In the small cap space, in South Africa, for example, you have great opportunities after the COVID. The real estate market is one that took a huge hit, and that creates a lot of I would say mispricing in the small cap area, and that creates, of course, great opportunities for investors wanting to come in, and they have an organized the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, so they have a very organized market. So and then you have opportunities in that space, because real estate has been hit very hard in Africa, especially in South Africa, by COVID, and the opportunities are endless.
We've spoken a lot about Africa. I mean, obviously that's a place that you've been focusing. What about other areas of the world that we should be looking at? Outside of Europe, outside of the U.S., of course, Haiti. What are other opportunities we should be looking for as investors, and even as projects looking for a place to expand, make partners, that sort of thing?
Well, I mean, Haiti and the Caribbean in general is definitely a place with. I mean, Haiti is a huge market with a very large size diaspora. Same thing for the Dominican Republic. Same thing for Jamaica, for example. So you have opportunities there in the fintech area, also in the money transfer area, because, for example, you take a country like Haiti. Haiti has just every year received about $3.6 billion, which is 40% of our GDP, in money transfer. And the fees paid are about between 10 to 12%. So every year, Haitians pay between $360 to $400 million just in fees from the money transfer houses. So, by developing, and in Haiti, everybody has a cell phone or two. Everybody has at least one or two cell phones. Sure. So imagine the opportunities that could create for a company. Basically doing a digital money transfer, or doing it through crypto or USDT. We see what's happening in El Salvador with the adoption of Bitcoin as a legal tender. So it's easier, Justin, for these type of smaller emerging markets to adopt legislation and change the landscape. And that's why the opportunities are there. El Salvador is a country with that's full of opportunities today for investors, and you see it. You see, Bitcoin ATMs all over, and that and the the side that people don't talk about is the impact that the Chivo wallet, this Bitcoin as a legal tender had on the money transfer fees and the benefits that the people and of course the investors are getting from this digital wallet, because then they can trade Bitcoin or any other currencies, and including USDT. So people are using that to make money transfers and then lower the access fee, the transaction fee, for that space.
Sure. The use case around eliminating intermediaries and reducing fees through fintech is, I mean, obviously, like, it's something that we feel in the U.S., but just is enormously important in other places where they're depending on transfers going out to relatives and coming in to the country. And that is a huge amount of money, 12% right off the top. I mean, you can obviously see why that's so important. Are there other emerging or regulated industries like legalized cannabis in the U.S., or organics and medicine in general, so psilocybin, for example? Are there any other emerging industries that you're feeling equally bullish about?
Well, certainly the legalized cannabis is one of them. Although in the Caribbean it's slower, especially in Haiti, and we see it as a much slower, because it has to do with culture. It has to do with a legacy of mostly the culture of the country. But that's a market that has huge upside potential. And in Africa, we see, for example, a country like Lesotho, which is a very small kingdom that probably nobody has heard about, but that's very bullish on cannabis investments, for example. And they have welcoming laws, for investors to invest in Lesotho into the cannabis industry. So, you have fintech, that's certainly huge. Legal tech is very big also. As you see, what's going on in the US, for example, with the migrants crisis, the Haitian migrant crisis, and several others, immigration has become a huge issue, and opening an opportunity for legal tech companies to develop apps to make it easier to obtain information, to make it easier for people to have access to the US immigration system and understand it better, and also putting out of business the coyotes, the illegal people, the illegal companies providing false information, fake news to immigrants that are creating this sometimes this inflow of migrants. So you have, and legal tech can play a significant role into preventing that and easing the access to information and having subscription-based following of cases. So you have, I think that we're at a wonderful time of opportunities, and where the bigger markets are need the smaller markets in order to keep growing. And this is a reality today that you'll see today and that you'll see tomorrow and for the ongoing future.
One last question, because we're just about to wrap up. Since you have had a level of accomplishment, of course, I don't think anyone else on this call right now has the experience of having been prime minister. Is there any wisdom you can bring to us from that very unique experience and accomplishment that you've had, that you've brought over back to your private sector life and your attitude toward investing?
Well, one is certainly to do your research and believe in diversification, of course, and in government is the same. I mean, I tried to bring my private sector skills, to government when I was there, and certainly when I left with an experience of having led a country that was in great crisis. After the earthquake, the country that was completely shattered, and having to use, I would say, innovative strategies and non-traditional methods, one is to mobilize international sensibilization first on our plight. Second is to also show the opportunities that the country had to invest. I mean, we had, for example, in the lodging industry, we had 0 hotels after the earthquake. All the hotels had been destroyed. So it took a lot of skills and a lot of persuasion and negotiation to bring, for example, Marriott into the country. And Marriott opened a super nice hotel there. Best Western had done, And that was investing 101, because you had to really roll out the red carpet, for those brands to give the country a shot. So now I see it the other way around, that you should never cast off an opportunity or a market, and you should look into, as an investor, look into markets that have lots of potential and that not necessarily everybody is interested in. And those markets can be the hidden gem that people are looking for.
Well, thank you so much. It is a great honor for you to join us. It was a great honor for us, for you to come join us today. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate your insights, Laurent. And it's been great speaking with you again.
Great, Justin. Thank you very much. And it was a wonderful pleasure to be here.